balance. The reason why I pay the full balance, let's say on one of your credit cards you just owe $500. What I suggest is to transfer, keyword transfer. I don't consider to pay a credit card, because when you consider to pay a credit card, it's a little bit more harder to let that money go. It's just a little mindset trick in order to prepare you for this. What I call it is transferring. When you transfer money from your checking to a credit card, it is no difference than from you transferring money from a checking to a savings account. The reason why I say that is because the money is available right away. If anything, it takes 24 hours to activate, but you'll be able to use your money just like you would on your debit card. In this case, that money you transferred over goes a little bit more for you, or works a little bit more for you, especially if your card carries these kind of benefits with miles, points, or cash back, something along those lines. Now that we've basically talked about the mindset, next we need to talk about the preparation. The preparation is key with this, because this is gonna set you up to basically work more efficiently. One of the first things you need to find out is, how do you get paid and when is it that you get paid? So take me for example. I get paid on the 1st and 15th of every month. So because I know I get paid on the 1st and 15th, all my bills are split up between the 1st and the 15th. This allows me to never miss a payment. And in addition to that, it is just more convenient, because I just disperse my money more evenly rather than in just one hit, let's say on a specific time of the month. And it just makes things a lot more easier for me. The next thing you need to consider is, when is your credit card due date? You need to know when your credit card due date is in order to obviously make the payment. But knowing the due date and paying on the due date is only 50% of that battle. The next date you need to find out is, when does your credit card company report to the credit bureaus? And this is something you can call and find out. They will tell you. It's something along the lines of like a cycle date, or you can just tell them like the report date, and they will tell you. In my case, for example, with Capital One, I have a due date of the 1st, and they report to the credit bureaus on the 5th of the month. All right. So this lets me know that I need to make a payment on the 1st, but they're not going to report to the credit bureaus to the 5th of the month. If you want some kind of confirmation with that, if you receive statements at your house, if you look at the upper right hand corner, the statement is going to have some kind of date on it. And that's the date that they're reporting to the credit bureaus. And that statement is nothing more than a copy of the information that they're sending to the credit bureaus, so that the credit bureaus can take it and then recalculate the score to whatever algorithm there is that they're using. If you find out that your credit card's due date is an odd number of the month, let's say you get paid on the 1st and 15th like I do, and you have a credit card bill due like on the 22nd, consider calling them and changing your due date. You can do this, and it's just very simple, and it's pretty much updated immediately, especially if you're with Capital One. Consider doing that, because this is going to put you in a position where, again, you're not going to miss a payment because it is the day that you get paid, and 2, it's going to set you up for success on the strategy that we're going to talk about right now. All right, so let's get down to specifics. This strategy, I basically do this with 6 credit cards. But to keep things simple today, we're only going to do an example. Let's say if you having just 2 credit cards. Credit card A right here, and we're going to use credit card B as your other credit card. All right? So one of the first things that I do is that on the 1st of the month, when I get paid, what I do is I pay off all of my credit cards. I bring every single one of my credit cards down to a 0 balance. And what that does for me is ensures that my balances are 0 or less than 30% of the full limit. The reason and why I do this, I do not max out my cards. I obviously keep all of my credit cards to a maximum of a 30% usage. So for example, whatever your credit limit is, divide by 3 and never ever pass that amount, no matter what the emergency is. If you feel like you need to use more than that, ask for a credit limit increase or apply for another card and then diversify that between amongst the other cards. But that's the way I'm willing to do that, because on the first of the month, I transfer money to all of my cards, bringing my balances down to zero. Now, credit card A, as we discussed earlier, credit card A's due date is on the first of the month. And because credit card company told me that they do not report to the 5th of the month, what I do is that once this card is paid off, I do not touch this card until after the 5th of the month. So it'll go from the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th of the month. On the 6th of the month is when I start using this card. And the way that I start using this card is that I've scheduled my bills to the 6th of the month to ensure that this card does not get touched and that money starts coming out of it on the 6th of the month. And on this card, I may have things like Netflix, my car insurance, phone bill, little things like that to come out automatically. Now, you may say, well, from the 1st to the 5th, if you're saying that you're not using credit card A, what card are you using on the meantime? Because, well, we gotta eat, we gotta use gas, and in case of any emergency, we need to have some kind of funds just to be prepared. So while credit card A is not being touched, what I do is I use credit card B. Credit card B's due date is on the 15th of the month. So because it's does not report till 5 days later, about the 19th, this card doesn't report. So since this card is not going to report to the middle of the month, doesn't matter. I can still use this card while credit card A is waiting to report. Credit card B is being used for my gas, food, or whatever little knickknacks that I use. Now, once credit card A reports on the 5th of the month, on the 6th of the month, once they reported, what I do is that I stop using credit card B to get me by, and I start using credit card A to get me by in case I need food, gas, or whatever the case may be. What happens is that with credit card B, I've only used a very minimal, maybe even 5 to 10%. And so what that does is that I still keeps my balances extremely low. Remember, I'm doing this with 6 credit cards. So the impact on my credit is a lot bigger. Now, when credit card B reports and the 5 days pass and it reports, then what I do is that out of my 6 credit cards, I only pick 2 out of the ones that I think benefits me the most. And basically I have 2 credit cards that basically give me cash back. I love the cash back option because what it essentially does is that I get things for that much more cheaper, and that cash reward, once I'm able to redeem it, I just use it to bring it right back into my credit card. This way, when it comes for me to transfer my balances over, what I do is it's just that much more less that I get to transfer over. So I'll just pick 2 credit cards. Once both cards have reported, I pick 2 credit cards, and then that carries me through the rest of the month. And then on the 1st of the month, I play that game all over again. What this does for me is that I only transfer out a minimal amount from my checking to my credit cards. So because I do not pass the 30% threshold on my credit cards, what I'm able to transfer out is smaller than what I'm getting in as income. And so on a month-to-month basis, not only is my credit score growing, not only is my balances report zero, but my checking account is growing because I'm not touching it, I'm not using it, and I'm only dishing out from it exactly what I need to bring my credit card balances at zero. Now, another thing to remember and another thing to consider is that after your credit card reports, all right, after your credit card reports to the credit bureaus, that what happens the day after that, the credit bureaus will not know. They do not care. They only get reported to once a month, only once. No, I'm only saying that because there's a lot of people that say, well, I use my credit cards and I pay right away. I use it and I pay right away. Well, that's good and everything for the credit card company, but that does no good for your credit. The reason is because, well, the credit bureaus, they don't know. So this is why it's important to remember when your due date is and when your report date is, because that report date is important to know. And I tell you, I forgot to touch on something. When you pay your, let's say, minimum balance, let's say because it happens to anybody, if you pay your minimum balance on the first of the month, that's great because you've paid the credit card company, and so that's just one check mark. Remember, the due date is just 50% of the battle. Let's say within that 5-day period, you get a check or somebody pays you back money that they owed you, whatever the case may be. If you pay a larger amount within that 5-day time period and you just lower your balance that much more or just bring it down to zero, let's say a few days after, that's awesome, because that means that if you pay, as long as you pay it by the 5th of the month, actually a day prior just to be sure, but actually if you pay that money prior to the report date and you bring your balances to zero or at least a 30% threshold, then it will report with that new balance. So that gives you a little bit of time frame, a little bit of cushioning to maybe find out where you're going to get that money. But I highly suggest that when it comes to paying your credit card balances, just pay the full balance because it's available right away. All right.